As a member of the media, I am shocked and outraged that our president would retweet such offensive things. In one retweet from the president, a man referred to Hillary Clinton as I can't believe I'm going to say these words, skank. Can you believe Donald Trump would do this? How could the president? I'm kidding, by the way. But yes, the journalists are freaking out because Donald Trump once again does what Donald Trump always does. He not care, I guess. Look, I'll tell you what, man. If this is what you voted for, Trump is delivering, and he is delivering in spades. He is just lighting a fire to all of this establishment, whatever. And he doesn't seem to care. He rolls with it. He likes it. I think it's worthy of criticism. I absolutely do. I mean, look, the president's supposed to be, I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe it. There's got to be some professionalism, right? But I think many people in this country who voted for the president, to be honest, stopped caring. And I don't mean they don't care about America. I mean they stopped caring about trying to vote in people who lied every single step of the way. The way I've described it before is that Donald Trump is a bull. And you've got, the Bernie Sanders was the leftist populist knocking on the door, asking to be politely let in. Please let me in the ivory tower, he said. And they laughed at him from up above. The populist on the right brought a bull to the door who kicked it in and rampaged full speed. So what I mean is they don't care. I think people deeply care about this country and they want to see it do better. But when you spend, decades voting back and forth between presidents who are like, vote for me and I'll do this, and then they don't. And then vote for me and I'll fix it, and then they don't. I remember that famous rant from Dylan Ratigan. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I think it was MSNBC, and he just snapped. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said one party wants to burn it to the ground while the other party wants to kick the can down the road for another generation. No one actually get anything done. That guy ends up leaving. Now he works on a farm or something. Cool dude. I don't know a lot about him. But I think when it came to Donald Trump, he stood up and said, I'm going to do these things. And he was a nasty guy. He was mean, right? That's what he said. Trump said, I'm a mean guy, but I work for you. And this is exactly what you can expect. Let's take a look at some of these tweets and we'll talk about the media because, boy, they are really, really salty about this one. Trump shares sexist messages about prominent female Democrats in Twitter spree. After and this is from Slate, mind you, I've chosen a lefty publication on purpose because we really want to get to the core of their outrage. After his round of golf on Saturday, it seems the president went back home and started scrolling Twitter. President Donald Trump then proceeded to go on a spree that was bizarre even for his standards, as he retweeted posts mocking several big-name female Democrats, all while he peddled baseless conspiracy theories regarding MSNBC's Joe Scarborough. In one particularly shocking message, the president shared a tweet by John Stahl, a conservative who got a whopping 4% in the 2012 open primary to represent California's 52nd district, that called Hillary Clinton a skank. Listen, my friends. I've always been a bit of a liberal dude growing up in big cities. And briefly, there was a brief period where I was like, maybe we actually can do something. Maybe there is hope and change. And then I quickly had that washed away. Look, I grew up punk rock, far left with a bunch of my skater friends. Had a brief period of maybe Obama's that guy. And then he went and blew a bunch of kids. And I'm like, that was not the guy. I'm done. And I don't care anymore. So when I see the establishment elite, the liars, the manipulators, oh man, what's funny? What I'm describing about this media class and the establishment Democrats, it's almost in line with this idea of the 1%. It's the people sitting atop the ivory tower in their fancy mansions saying, let them eat cake. It's not all rich people, right? And that's the weird thing. Everybody tries to figure out what this one group is they really, really hate. And so everyone's got weird theories about it. But it's for me, I guess it's these elites. They're upper class, not even really liberal. I mean, they don't care about freedom. They just care about power. They tend to be wealthy. Look at these Hollywood celebrities, many of them born into wealth, just have money, think they're smarter than you. They were given the keys to the castle. And that's what many of these politicians were. Even the Republicans, especially the Republicans, especially. That's what I saw growing up. You had the cool hippie lefty types, and then you had the hoity-toity suit-wearing traditional family values types, and then Trump came along, and a lot of these establishment Republicans, they retired, they backed off. I don't want to be involved in this, and Trump just started tearing everybody apart, and I didn't vote for it. You know why? Because I've been burned one too many times, and I got to be honest, it's not what I would want to represent me, so I'm not going to vote for it. But I laughed. And I understood. And I remember sitting there the day Trump got elected with my hands behind my head in a room full of, Democrat Hillary supporters while they were all, freaking out. I was laughing as loud as I could. It was hilarious. It was seeing all of these elites getting what was coming to them. The bull had been unleashed, and the look on their faces, it's like they're atop this ivory tower looking down, laughing at the peasants who brought a bull to the door, and they're all laughing and cheersing and pointing. And then all of a sudden the bull kicks the door in, and then they're like, oh, they knew it was coming. Let me show you some of these tweets. Of course, Maggie Haberman of the New York Times is outraged. The president just retweeted someone calling the first woman nominee of either major political party in the U.S., quote, a skank. A few hours after another Scarborough murder allegation on the weekend, the country closes in on 100K coronavirus deaths. Yes, perhaps if they stopped to think, they would understand why it is they represent something. Look, okay, the people like what Trump is doing. I mean, like Trump's voters. People may come out in droves to vote against him. That's a possibility. Biden seems to be doing better than, Hillary. We'll explore this later in my other segment. If you're listening to the podcast, you've already heard it. But when you look at someone like Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, does she think that she's speaking to regular working Americans? Do any of these people really think that? They're not. Regular people like American Gladiators. It's a Bill Burr reference, but I know it's an old show, but they like comedy. They like entertainment. They like Kanye West, and they like Donald Trump. Not everybody. A lot of people really hate him. But before he ran for president, everybody loved the guy. It was like he was the symbol of wealth and the American dream or whatever, for whatever, your opinion is on the guy. In reference to like his dad is alone and everything. But people were like, rappers rapped about being Trump having golden toilets. Like that was the thing. Trump is, he's not a regular guy by no means. I mean, the guy's grown up rich, but he's something to these people that's not what the New York Times is. And I think what it really is it's like it's the people who think they're smarter than you, to be honest. Like you can be wealthy and successful and just be a bit humble. You're not smarter than everybody else. And I think that's one of the things that separates me from a lot of these other journalists too. Because politically, I certainly disagree with a lot of, conservative political positions and right-wing, I guess, cultural positions. Sort of. It's really changing, right? So on freedom of speech being a right-wing issue has become strange. But I think as long as you're willing to be, humble and recognize you're not always right, you're not the smartest person, that's all that anybody really wants. So when you get a news media class, people like Maggie Haberman freaking out, harumphi say, that's the joke, right? We've been selling harumphi say t-shirts. It's not on this channel, it's on the Timcast IRL channel, but that's the joke I'm making. Trump is the guy who's coming in the room while they're all, pinkies out drinking their tea. Oh, harumph, how dare Trump say such awful words about the first lady. And regular people probably don't care. They kind of just pretend, right? Check this out. That wasn't the only time Trump amplified Stahl on Saturday. The president also retweeted 2 other messages by Stahl in which he insulted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and mocked the way she looks. And he also shared yet another Stahl post in which he made fun of Stacey Abrams' weight. To be fair, Nancy Pelosi did call Trump morbidly obese. Trump is not morbidly obese. He's obese. So it's like, I'll be honest, man. I thought it was hilarious the way Nancy Pelosi delivered that line. She was like, it was about hydroxychloroquine. And she's like, she says something about being concerned about, his age group and, let's be honest, weight class, morbidly obese. It was funny. I have a sense of humor. So if Trump then comes out and makes fun of Nancy Pelosi's look, do you think I'm going to be upset? No, I'm going to think it's funny too. The funny thing about what really separates the two factions of the culture or whatever, you look at a subreddit or like a community like The Donald. I think it's really funny. So for those that don't know what it is, Reddit, big social media network, the largest Donald Trump forum created its own site, thedonald.win. And I frequent a variety of left and right culture war subreddits. The funny thing is, you'll see the same post on both. You'll go to a left-wing anti-Trump subreddit and they'll have that picture of Donald Trump playing tennis where he's like turning and you can see his butt and he's like out of shape and like kind of goofy looking. And they share that laughing. And then the Trump supporters share it and laughing. I don't think the left really understands what it is the right cares about. They think it's funny. It's a joke. It's a game. They love this. And they love it when the journalists get triggered saying, oh, I'm so angry that someone would make fun of Stacey Abrams' weight. Well, Nancy Pelosi just made fun of Trump's weight. So they don't care. You know what I mean? It's funny. Let's look at Aaron Rupar says, absolutely despicable. It's a tweet from John S. Stahl, who said, we just got to look at the official portrait of the self-proclaimed governor of Georgia. She fought a tough race, kissed a lot of babies, and visited every buffet restaurant in the state. Wow. Joe will be a racist if he doesn't pick her. Aaron Rupar, I'd be willing to bet you could go through his timeline and find him talking about Nancy Pelosi calling Trump morbidly obese, and he wouldn't be angry about it. Yet when it comes to someone cracking a joke about the weight of Stacey Abrams, oh, despicable. And that's what people are sick of. Just have some consistency, right? And that's the thing about, I think about a lot of the Trump supporters. They laugh. There's a photo that went viral. I shouldn't say went viral, but was upvoted on Reddit of Trump with his hair blowing in the wind, and it looks ridiculous. And the Trump supporters stickied it on their forum, laughing, loving it. They love the guy. It's like, I don't think they understand that Trump takes these attacks against him and he turns them into jokes to rally his base. I went to the White House, the White House social media summit. I thought it was going to be more of a quiet, let's have a conversation about social media censorship. But for the most part, it was a VIP Trump rally, to be honest. And Donald Trump made a bunch of self-deprecating jokes that they like to make fun of him. And Trump rolled with it. And it's funny. The dude's an entertainer. He gets it. He knows how to make people laugh. And those people like it. You don't understand. If it's you look at someone like Rodney Dangerfield, the dude knew it was all self-deprecating humor. And it actually it defeats the argument. It defeats the insult because you laugh and you shrug it off. It doesn't bother you. They don't get it. Let's read a little bit more. Look at this. Aaron Rupar says, the president called one prominent female Democrat fat. Well, no, he didn't. He retweeted somebody. And another a skank tonight. And it won't get nearly the coverage of Joe Biden saying something dumb because the bar for Trump is subterranean and we've normalized having an ignorant monster as president. No, they don't get it. They really, really don't. There is no bar for Trump. That's basically the point. And most people who voted for Trump know it. In fact, many of the people I've talked to, as I've traveled, have said they wished he wouldn't do stuff like this. They're still going to vote for him. You don't get it. You have this indefensible standard, the circular firing squad. That's what Obama called it. There's nothing you can do to not be offensive. That's the huge problem. I'm sure someone's going to claim Aaron Rupar is a bigot or something. So why bother? And now you end up with two extremes. You get the left that's like literally everything is offensive and Donald Trump being like skank, overweight, eating at buffets. One's freedom and one's got no solution. That's the big problem. When I look at Donald Trump tweeting, these retweets, I'm like, freedom of speech. Personally, I'd like a president who didn't do this. I understand why it's funny. I think it's funny. But look, I can think a guy's really, really funny. I have a friend, who's very crude, very crass, very offensive. I wouldn't hire him for a job where they got to speak to the public all the time. You know what I mean? I can laugh at it. But that's just me, right? I think regular people see Trump as freedom of speech. They love that he's taking down these hoity-toity elitists. It makes them feel good. It's emotionally satisfying. The problem is, I look at that and I'm like, I understand that. That fits within like a framework of principle. I look to the left and I see nothing that makes sense. It's like women with an X, Y, or an E. Which one is offensive? I don't know. I have no idea. There was a story I covered where they said Wimixon, WOMXN, I kid you not, Wimixon. They said that's the right way to say it because it's inclusive. And then some group came out, feminists saying it was offensive because you shouldn't need a special word because trans women are women. And then someone came out and said something about like that was exclusive because of women of color or something. And it was like they were just attacking each other over which to put an X or a Y in the word women. And I'm like, nothing here makes sense. Trump being offensive, I get. You can like it, you can hate it, but you know why he does it. This, I don't know what that is. Here we go. We got more. The president shared the mocking tweets in the same day as he continued to push a conspiracy theory that suggests Scarborough may have had something to do with the 2001 death of an intern who worked for him. Keep digging, Trump wrote. Use forensic geniuses. This isn't the first time the president has peddled that particular theory, and it's unclear what exactly set him off this time. But earlier in the day, the Morning Joe Twitter account noted there would be a special Sunday morning edition of the show as the New York Times dedicates page 1 to all those who have lost their lives in the pandemic. Then Trump said, oh man, Trump tweeted about the Joe Scarborough story from 2001 and his intern. Yeah. Former Vice President Joe Biden also made a mention of the shocking front page that was devoted entirely to listing some of the almost 100,000 Americans who have died of COVID, calling it jarring and heartbreaking. Trump's Twitter spree also came on the same day that Biden released an attack ad against the president, blasting his decision to play golf over the weekend as the coronavirus death toll kept rising. The death toll is still rising, notes the ad. The president is playing golf. Okay, first of all, Trump himself criticized Obama for taking vacations and golfing. And yes, I think it's fair to call that out. But you can't simultaneously be mad about that and then argue that Trump can't do anything anyway. It's one of the biggest problems that they argue Trump can't you dictate what any of these businesses do. He can't force them open. He has no power. But if we shut down things sooner, we could have saved lives. And that is Trump's fault. What? Trump didn't have the authority to shut down the businesses. The governors had to do it. And when he came out saying he did have the authority, you told him he didn't. You see, that's the problem. You know what? Criticize Trump for playing golf? Yeah, for sure. But you know what? I really don't care. I really don't. I care if the job gets done. I don't care what you do. I'm not that kind of person where it's like, you know, if I was a manager at a shop and I came in and I saw someone playing on their phone, I'm not going to be like, why are you playing on your phone? I'd be like, you get those papers done? And when they're like, yep, you got it. I'd be like, awesome. Thanks, bro. I'd walk out. I don't care if you're playing on your phone. I care if you're getting the job done. The same is true for Obama. The same is true for Trump. So look, if Trump wants to go take a break and go golf, I really don't care. Now, I think there's a point to be made about Trump and the amount of money it costs for him to go play golf all the time. Yeah, it's a lot of money. And then meanwhile, Trump's donating his salary. Fine, that's fine. But how much more is it costing in Secret Service? You know what I mean? So I think it's symbolic gesture to donate his salary. Fine. But he's still getting great benefits. So I'm not here to play any of those silly games. That's the gist of the story, I guess. Is that it? They're angry. Well, here's Axios. Trump tweets baseless conspiracy theory accusing Joe Scarborough of murder. Baseless? I can't stand the media. I can't. Why would you add the word baseless? It's a serious question. Do I think that the conspiracy charges against Scarborough are legit? No, I don't. I honestly don't. I don't know enough, so I wouldn't make an assertion. But a journalist, a news organization, would just say something. Trump tweets about Joe Scarborough and an intern who lost their life. That's it. You add baseless conspiracy theory is a loaded term. This is why people like it when Trump rags on everybody, because you do things like this. You've never answered the questions about what, you know, well, they've answered some questions about the Joe Scarborough thing, but a lot of people don't buy it and they want to talk about it. And so listen, it's very simple. When I approach somebody that believes something I know to be false, do I laugh at them and insult them and say they're peddling baseless nonsense? How stupid, the Trumpsters, the MAGA chuds? No, of course not. The story I often tell people, I was in, I think it was San Fran, and I got invited to this big, you know, it was a bunch of Trump supporters were getting together for like a dinner or something. So they asked me if I wanted to come. I did, for sure. And I'm sitting down and we're all talking, and I mentioned something about systemic racism or like institutional racism. And they all laughed about it. And I was like, no, I mean this seriously. And they were like, oh, but that's not a thing. I'm like, no, it is. There is a such thing as institutional or systemic racism. The problem is the left doesn't actually try to communicate with conservatives to explain it to them. Instead, you get these preachers of social justice dogma screeching that all white people are racist, which is not what it is. And so just to give you a quick context to understand it, St. Louis County is where I did this documentary. And there are problems stemming back from the history of the city and the civil rights movement and racism, which results in negative consequences for mostly the black communities today. So there are serious issues. You had segregation, and because of this, you end up with a bunch of different cities, and then you end up with poverty in certain areas. And so the issue, what I try to explain to people, is not that the individual officer who's enforcing this ticket is racist, but that there are remnants of systems that came from racist institutions that still exist. And I think the solution to them is to actually not talk about it from a racial perspective, but from a class perspective. When you approach someone humbly and honestly and you say, I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, but I can tell you what I did hear and what I did learn about when I went someplace, guess what? They listen. Instead, what do we get? And this criticism goes for Trump as well. When you point the finger at someone else and insult them and screech at them and laugh, it doesn't work. I don't like engaging in this kind of stuff on Twitter, right? I really avoid this, but I see it all the time. Someone on the left will tweet and then someone on the right will post something, insulting them. Not necessarily insulting, but it could be like derision or mockery. I always try to make sure, for the most part, my responses to many of these journalists is normal, honest and calm. There was one instance where a journalist tweeted something. I then tweeted in response, and people started attacking the journalist, but the journalist was quoting a paper. And so I apologized for it. I was like, that was not my intention. I was actually highlighting the story you were highlighting as well. I just quote tweeted you. I shouldn't have done it. Should have just used the story. But that's what I try to do. And I think everyone would be better off for it. But the point of this video and what I'm saying is it's how you can understand why the left is always freaking out, why Trump says the things that he does. Whether or not we get through this and everything improves, maybe we just devolve until everyone tears each other's throats out. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up over at timcast.net. Go to that URL. It's a different YouTube channel. It'll be at 4 p.m. I will see you there, and thanks for hanging out.